Hello and welcome to this video where the subject is batch processing. My name's Barry Beckham. The batch processing of images is controlled by presets in Adobe Camera Raw. But we can also do this by copying the edits from one image in Bridge to many others. We're going to take a look at both of these options in a few moments. There are many times when editing one image at a time is the only way we want to go. But there are also going to be other times where the batch processing of a number of images is required. We can use the batch process for the entire manipulation of our images, or we can use it to just apply those routine changes, the ones we make most of the time, like lens corrections, color balance, and perhaps even noise suppression. There are a number of presets which are already made for us within Adobe Camera Raw. Let's take just a quick look at those. I'll select any image, it doesn't really matter which, and we'll open it up into Camera Raw. I need to take you to the presets, and that's the little symbol almost at the end, and there's the tooltip presets. There we can see all of the presets that now are a part of Adobe Camera Raw. As you can see, there's a number of headings up on the left, and I think most of these are best for you to take a look at some time when you've got a bit of time on your hands. I'm just going to open up the color, I think, and we'll see a number of options in here. As I pass my mouse over any of these options, you'll notice that the changes are applied as a sort of preview. If I actually want to select one of these, let's say I wanted to select the vivid here, then I just click and we see it highlighted and ready for use. If I want to place that into my favorites, then I go to the little star here, and if I just click it, it seems to flood with color, and you'll see the preset pop up in your favorites. So if there's one here that you use more often than not, then you can include it in a batch of favorites. What I'd like to do here is to take a look at creating our own user presets and then applying those to a batch process. To be able to demonstrate this, you can see I've got a couple of batches of images. They're quite small, but of course what we're about to do can be applied to a dozen images or hundreds. So I'm going to make a start by opening the top left image in Adobe Camera Raw, and we're going to work on just a batch of landscapes there. So let's go ahead here and make some changes which we can apply to the whole batch. Let's start in a familiar place with chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections. I'm then going to move back to my basic tab. I'm going to adjust the exposure just a little bit. I'm going to drop that down a little bit. I think I'll have a look at just picking up the whites a little bit, taking the blacks down a little bit. I'll put a healthy amount of vibrance in there and a healthy amount, I should have said clarity of course, and a healthy amount of vibrance here. Now you can see that the vibrance has overly affected the blue sky, so I think I may also visit my hue, saturation and luminance slider. In the hue, I have found with my own cameras that if I move the blue about +8, that it makes a nicer color blue, but here as you can see the blue is too blue. So I'm going to go to my saturation. I'm going to drop that down to be a bit more natural. But while we've got lovely greens and some yellows here, I'm going to push those up. So I've made a number of changes to the image, and what I'd like to do now is to create my preset. If we go to the presets, and they'll all appear as we saw a few moments ago, down at the bottom right we get a little tiny icon which says New Preset. Now this is an important panel. Now, because one preset will always overwrite another, what I'm going to do is to get into the habit of just ticking the boxes of those changes that we've made. So I'm going to click check none to remove all of those ticks, and I'm just going to add those for the changes or the edits I made to the picture on screen. I started with chromatic aberration, and we did the lens corrections too. I did exposure, I did blacks and whites, I did clarity and vibrance, but I also did hue, saturation and slider adjustments. So now I can go to the top and I can give this a name. Let's just call it L-scape for speed. I can just have it put into user presets, but I also have the opportunity to create my own named set if I have a reason to do that. But what I can do now is click OK, and the preset has been made. Like before, if I want to select it, I can just highlight it, because we can apply the presets from within Camera Raw. And if I wanted to make it a favorite, I can. So let me close down Camera Raw just for a moment, and we'll open up another one of these images. So with another image from the same batch selected, I can go to my presets here and I can just select my option, as simple as that, and then I could move on with any other corrections I wanted to make. However, I can apply this very quickly in Bridge to a number of images, but if I do that, what I need to do is to make sure my user preset is in my favorites. So just tick the little star and it'll jump up into this position. Now what I'm going to do is to close down Camera Raw once again, and we'll apply these changes directly in Bridge. Now what I've discovered with presets is there may be a tiny bug in the software, because when we used to create presets in Photoshop, as soon as we created them in Adobe Camera Raw, we could apply them within Bridge. But what I've noticed is we often have to close Bridge down and relaunch it so that it reads the new preset we've made. I've just done that just to make sure that when I take you to the setting I want to take you to, it's actually there. So we're just going to select a small batch here, but I'll remind you again, we could be selecting 100 images or more here. I need to right click and I need to go to develop settings down here, and in here we can reset the raw defaults, we can clear the settings, but I also can apply my landscape preset. There are some editing tasks that we cannot include in a preset. Now they include the cropping of an image, spot removal, graduated and radial filters, plus the adjustment brush. These are more personal hands-on edits, not really best suited to a batch process. Now there is a way that we can batch process a crop and also the spot removal tool. Now this can be very useful. I'm going to use the same batch of images here, seeing as they're highlighted, because what we need to do, let's deal with the crop first. Let's assume I wanted to crop all of these images down to a square, for example. I'm going to hit the Enter key and open all of these up into Camera Raw. Now it's very similar to what we do when we start to make a panorama. Once I have all the thumbnails down the left hand side, I need to select them all. I'm going to use Control A, which is the general keyboard shortcut. Then I'm going to go to my crop tool, and let's just assume we've got a special project where we want to crop all these square. There's the crop I'm going to decide to use. I'm going to hit the Enter key and I'm going to click Done down at the bottom right corner. And if I go into the Bridge, we can actually see Photoshop at work doing the crop we asked for. Now while I've got that batch of images highlighted, if I wanted to reset the camera raw defaults, I can go to any one once I'd highlighted them all, right click, choose develop settings, and I can choose camera raw defaults. What you'll notice when I do that is all of the edits were changed in relation to exposure, whites, blacks, clarity, vibrance, but the crop wasn't removed. If we wanted to remove the crop as well as the edits we previously removed, then right click, develop settings, clear settings, and then the whole batch of images is reset back to raw thumbnails. Now for those of you who use digital SLRs and you suffer with dust spots in the sky, which is a inevitable part of photography these days, this next demonstration is worth its weight in gold perhaps. I'm going to select this batch of images. These were all shot with a very small aperture, so they're going to show up all of the dust that's on the sensor. So I'm going to select them all and hit the enter key to open them up into Camera Raw as we did before. I just need to select one of these to view. It doesn't really matter which one I select. I can choose one, but then Control A to select them all. I think if I'm going to do any of the spotting, what I think I'll also do is just, if I've not already done it of course, is set the lens corrections. I'm not sure if that's absolutely necessary, to be honest, but it seems to make some sense to me. But what I want to do is to double click the zoom tool. I'll move my image up to the top right corner where I know there's some marks, and there you can see them. I'm going to pick up my spot removal and I'm going to start fixing some of these. Now what I'm actually doing here, I'm fixing the marks in all of the images that I've got in my batch on the left hand side. So with that thought in mind, it doesn't seem such a big issue to take a bit of extra care in doing this, does it? If we know we're doing 50 images in one go, we may have to quickly look at them just to make sure that the fix has been done well on most of them, but I've not found any problems in doing this personally, certainly not with dust. Now I don't need to do masses of this to demonstrate what I need to demonstrate. Let's assume I've carefully gone over all of this image here and done every dust spot I could find. I'm going to click Done. Now coming back to my batch of images in Bridge, this was the thumbnail where I did all of the work with the spotting. So let's open up the last one in the batch. I think that was down the bottom. I don't think we even had this one on screen, but I'm pretty confident it's all worked well because I can see the little symbol here, which is Photoshop's way of saying these images have all been edited. So let me double click to open this image into Camera Raw, and if I just select my spot removal tool, there I can see all of the edits have been made for me. Now that is going to be very useful. So here we're looking at an image where all the dust spots in the sky were fixed via a batch process. Let's just assume for a moment that we got something wrong somewhere. Let's say we even selected images which were the wrong ones for the batch. So we end up having loads of spotting done on a picture and we didn't really want it at all. Well, all we've got to do is to go down to the spot removal panel at the bottom right and click Clear All. Now there is another way that we can copy changes from one raw thumbnail in Bridge to many others. Now unfortunately we cannot include cropping, spot removal, the graduated and radial filters plus the adjustment brush. But we can include the normal sliders, which we would affect color, clarity, contrast, and also lens corrections. So with this image changed to monochrome and one or two options changed as well, like lens corrections, I'm going to right click, go down to develop settings, and I'm going to copy those settings. If I then select the remainder of the batch and right click, I can go back to develop settings and I can paste them in. Now it gives me the opportunity of pasting in just what I want, but I know exactly what I've done, so here I can just click OK, and there we have the batch process. So with batch processing we have a series of presets which are now a part of Photoshop. We can create our own batch processing preset. We can apply that from within Adobe Camera Raw or multiple images via Bridge. And by opening up a series of raw images in Bridge all together, we can either crop them or we can fix all of those dust spots in one go.